Welcome to another episode of Ask the Hub. Today we want to talk about what is the best strategy to find the right tool, technology or software vendor for your project. And for that matter, we invited Klaus. He's the CEO of Bright IT and an expert on the topic. So, hi Klaus, how are you doing?
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking the time to talk about the topic. So, let's dive into it. First of all, how would you define a good web tool or technology? What does it even mean that it's good in a way?
Well, the very basic question is it solving a real problem that many customers have? Because then it's probably grounded on reality. And related to that is it popular as a tool or technology? And maybe also like locally in your market, but also on a global scale, because that makes it a more relevant solution. For us, it's always important that the solution is based on commonly accepted technology standards and practices. And I would say directly related to that is also usability. So is it usable for technical and non-technical users? And also independent from your background. So you may have a need for it to support special character sets, for example. And also related to usability is how much training effort is there, both for the end user, but also for developers. Is there any certification available? And does it make sense maybe even? So generally, you want this to be based on something that is contemporary, usable, is not a proprietary script language. For me, a prime example of that would be TypoScript in Typo3. That is something that is only used in one system, and that's simply not something you want to dig into. And then there is the last aspect that I would say is the legal aspect. Will it be legally compliant? For example, the GDPR, I think everybody's aware that you need to be compliant with that. And obviously all your tools and technologies need to help you being compliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Actually, in the vast ocean of technologies and possibilities out there, there are definitely many things to look out for. And besides technical aspects now, what do you think are the other aspects that we should think about as well?
Well, you can look at two separate things here, really, when it comes to languages, frameworks, or libraries, or software solutions or vendor solutions. And let me start with the languages, frameworks, or libraries. That would be something like React, let's say, or Vue.js, which is sort of a framework, or Java as a programming language, let's say. So I would always ask myself, how long has this been in existence, and what's the outlook? Will it exist still in 2 or 3 years? What's the likelihood of that being successful in the long run? And a little bit related to that, or maybe a cause of good planning, like do they have a roadmap? Do they have any major updates planned? And if they do, then will I be able to keep my solution up to date? Because it doesn't help you if they regularly update it and break in between versions. Vue.js is a prime example of a major change between versions, and it's really hard to switch from one version to another, which is not good. So generally speaking, can I update the framework or library easily, and will it be backwards compatible? So will my old code be able to run on a new version? And then I would say we've discussed about availability of resources. So is there a good community around the technology? And if it's needed, also in your local language. So if you want a French support community, then you want to watch out for that, right? And last but not least, also related to that, can I find the skills on the market? So if you need developers for that particular language, will I find the people that can work with that?
Yeah, and will I find always the people also in the longer term, right? If maybe right now they are still there, but will they be around in 5, 10, 15 years?
Yeah, and for us, we work in one of the most competitive markets when it comes to IT workers in Poland. And it's really a factor in picking the right tools and technologies from that perspective as well. So you do want to work with solutions that people are attracted to as well. It's of course not the only factor in this, but it is a factor in abandoning things that are really outdated and old school.
Yeah, that's interesting actually, right? That as a software vendor yourself, you cannot just think about the market itself, but you have to think about your developers itself, right? That they want to work, that they like to work, because at the end of the day, they spend a ton of time writing code. And if they don't like the technologies, then obviously this will affect the outcome, right?
Yeah, actually, that makes it sound like a bad thing that they don't like something, but they have objective reasons for that as well. So something may be very inefficient to work with, or it may be very hard to work with systematically. Most developers that I know, at least, or that I work with, have very high standards, and based on that, they really avoid working with things that are not up to date.
Okay, so let's talk a bit more about this side. Now we talked a lot about the technologies and the tools and what to look out for. How does it look like when I'm looking for a software vendor? What would you think about in that scenario?
Well, I think all the things that I've said about languages, frameworks, or libraries still apply. But when it comes to vendors, you're talking about more industry-specific things, maybe. So you want to see in a vendor that they have experience in the business field that you are practicing in, that they have experience working with organizations of your background or size. And again, when we talk about roadmaps, in this case, we're talking more about visions as well. So, does the vendor have a very clear vision of who they want to be also in 3 years or 5 years? Where is the market headed? But do they have their own vision, or is it just a copy of the 2021, in this case, market trends that everybody is repeating? Because then they probably don't have a long-term vision. And you can also see it in the way they market themselves. So vendors that have a very weak vision, they will mostly market themselves through product feature lists. And don't get me wrong, product features are relevant, but it's more about which problems you are solving or aiming to solve, what you should look out for. So again, you want them to have an official roadmap. And related to that, you also want them to show that they're actually delivering towards that roadmap, because there are also vendors out there that make promises and never deliver. But that's like a whole different discussion. Yeah. Then when we talk about industry experience, we should also talk about local market experience, because it doesn't help you if the vendor is very successful, let's say in the US market, and they don't understand the German-speaking region at all. So on the one hand side, you want them to show some experience in your market and also an interest in that market, really. Do they have an interest in really understanding the difficulties of the local market?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. These are many points that we can already look at and think about when we're looking for technology, tool, or a software vendor in that case. Do you have some final words from your side on the topic?
Well, I'd say you've seen this topic is rather wide and complex. With that said, over the past almost 20 years, I've become increasingly picky on who we want to work with. And I would basically recommend you to do the same. So be very suspicious, ask many questions, think about who you want to work with. And let me also share with you, there is no single solution that fits everyone in every project. It simply doesn't exist. And I will be extremely careful with anyone that tells you so. With that said, however, there definitely is a best choice that matches your particular needs. And to be honest, that's how we see it from our perspective at Bright IT. We have a portfolio of solutions that match particularly common use cases that we encounter. And that's what we work with. But you always have an eye on the market as a whole, and you try to compare like who's moving in which direction and what's the best solution for our clients and the use cases that we solve.
Great. Yeah, so thank you very much on your insights on the topic.
You're very welcome.
And for the viewers out there, if you have other questions when it comes to the topic of how to choose the right technology, tool, or software vendor, or you have questions directly to Bright IT, please leave them down here in the comments and we are happy to answer them. See you next time.